Ooh, comes to light. Mm. Mhm. America's fight. Ooh, that's good. That's good. Right, all right, let's get this going, guys. This is Red, White, and Ruthless. We've got this is finally number 10. Okay, shit. Yeah, I screwed it up before. I thought it was 10. It was fucking 9. Okay, whatever. I was drinking too much, but that's okay. So what are we talking about today, man? So if many of you, probably not too many of you know, my wife does because it drives her crazy sometimes because I get irritated. But I 100% back the badge. I 100% support law enforcement, and I was worked in prisons for 28 years, and as many of you know, I retired as associate warden, and have a lot of respect for all those individuals working in prisons, and I did it, so I get it. But there is like a part of me that gets irritated when when law enforcement does things that kind of stain the badge, so to speak. And I think that's really with how you deal with people. Um, sometimes people are assholes. Um, and you have to overcome that. You have to recognize that you get paid to deal with people who are assholes. Okay. And so fuck it, let it go. We all get caught up once in a while, a little bit. I work with inmates, and I mean, they're not citizens. Well, they're incarcerated citizens. They're inmates. But you got to learn how to, they call you an MFer, they talk about your mom, or they do whatever. Who cares, man? Who cares? So yeah, I get frustrated when I see cops giving other cops a bad name. And it's basically just how you approach situations, and sometimes you have to be a little more stern and stuff like that. But and some of it is like the use of force and how quickly it escalates. Sometimes I think about, how would, if we did it inside a prison, some of the things that I see, they would be firing that dude or lady. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's questionable. So, but I support good cops 100%. But this is a little different than that. It's really about this episode is really about what I think is politicizing your position as a law enforcement officer. So, what I'm talking about is when an agency decides that they are going to promote a liberal America, and they're going to, uh, I guess, fight against conservative America. They're going to target conservative America, Republicans. Yeah, I just shut that off. Sorry. So yeah, that pisses me off a little bit, and they do it. we know it. I mean, J6 was a prime example, and I'm working on that, and I want to give the J6 episode its justice, because I think it's important. So I'm doing a lot of research on that one, and I'm trying to keep it from being boring, but I'm also trying to make sure that the information is shared, and my opinion about it, and all that shit. But that's one that really, I think it's one of the biggest tragedies of the FBI, in how they, I mean, and they've got a few, Ruby Ridge, Waco, they shit the bed on that. But I think J6, uh, well, I shouldn't say, people were killed in the other ones, so those are horrific. But J6, from a political perspective, was the biggest shit the bed episode the FBI has had, in my opinion. And that's giving all due respect to the people they've fucking killed. And shouldn't have died. Those were not so political, though. Those were just handled incorrectly. So anyways, what we're talking about today is Gretchen Whitmer. Now she's the governor of Michigan. She's liberal, Democrat, and she was in the House of Representatives, and previous to being governor. And there was a plot to kidnap Governor what did I say? Gretchen Whitmer. I want to say Whitman. Whitmer. And what they found out was the FBI played a really central role in the entire plot to kidnap her. So there was a militia group, and there's a lot of fucking militia groups, man, especially in the South. I mean, they're all over the place. You look up, pretty much any state, you start looking up militia groups, and they're everywhere, and there's and you don't hear militia groups doing committing crimes. They're gonna, they'll talk about the 3%ers and stuff like that. I don't know if that's really classified as a militia group, more than just a patriotic group. I don't know. Maybe it is. But then I guess you could say that they got in some trouble with J6. I don't know that they deserved all the trouble that they got into. But of course, the president of the 3%ers was arrested. And anyway, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of fucking militia groups, and they're all over Texas. And these are just citizens who want to, be a part in protecting this country in the event there's a need for them to protect this country. They're in every state. I would challenge you, if you don't think so, challenge you to look up whatever state you're in, look up militia groups. I know even in California, there's fucking militia groups. I promise you. I lived in, quick story. I lived in northern California, in very rural California. And wow, I was getting I went to a local business in my area, and we started talking, and pretty soon the gentleman, he was very involved in or at least associated with some local militia folks, and he was telling me about how they had set up their area. They had enough land, and it was only accessible by a single bridge. And it was like a small city, not city, maybe a town. I don't know, a small town, essentially. but they would control that entire area because the only way you could get there was this bridge, and they had it figured out that they all they needed to do if shit hit the fan was blow this bridge, and they had it figured out to where they could survive for an extended period of time. And then they started talking about the weaponry that they had, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but it was it was some very very serious type of weapons. And they're not hurting anybody. They're there to to help this country. So yeah, militia groups are all over the place, and the FBI had apparently infiltrated a militia group back to the Gretchen Whitmer situation. Uh, they had an informant, and the essentially what the FBI did was they brought up the idea of, and when I say they, their informant brought up the idea of kidnapping Gretchen Whitmer. And the people involved, meaning the militia folks involved, many, if not all of them, who were going to be in part of it, had voiced their concern and about doing it. They didn't want to do it, didn't think it was a good fucking idea. But the one of the informants for the FBI made over $50,000 to get this fucking thing going. So it was very politically motivated. They wanted to bust a militia and call them far right militia, plans to arrest, or excuse me, kidnap governor. That's good press for liberals, because they want to diminish the reputation of American Republicans and conservatives by associating conservatives with a far right militia doing criminal actions like kidnapping. So they were very politically motivated in this, and from the very onset, they had at least a dozen informants and other cover agents embedded in the group that were planning the entire kidnapping. And there was only about 14 there was only about 14 people that were eventually charged with anything. And here's the thing: is there was at least a dozen FBI agents and informants involved in this operation to arrest these people. Okay, so you have as many agents and informants as you do militia guys who are allegedly, involved in this plot. And the FBI is funding the whole fucking thing. So they're paying for hotels, they're paying for, I mean, they had a credit card. Everything they needed paid for went on FBI's tab. So I mean, it's kind of crazy when the FBI just almost outnumbers the number of people that end up being charged, and they're the ones who came up with the fucking plot anyway. Is that really what we want from our law enforcement agencies? Is that where did, because if they wouldn't have brought this up, it would have never happened. Okay. So does that make sense to you? Is that what you want your law enforcement agencies to do? Um, is that I mean, that's what they argued was entrapment, and I don't claim to know the exact definition of. I mean, there's a lot of legal terminology, with the entrapment and where it may not be entrapment and all that shit. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you from a layman's perspective as a citizen, given that situation, I feel the FBI way fucking overstepped on that situation. They paid these informants. So imagine this: these informants were getting paid based on the fact they had this crime in progress. So the informants, they could continue to ask for money and, need this, need that, whatever, as long as there was this, they were providing information and there was still this criminal plot to, to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. So, um, I mean, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me that that this case would even really get tried. Well, I mean, it did, and ultimately only two people were convicted. So the first trial, two men were acquitted, and two others got a mistrial. In state level trials, some were convicted. I don't have the exact numbers, but it was pretty much a shit show for them. They didn't look good. The case, Democrats, of course, used as I spoke before, Democrats used the case as a right wing extremist conspiracy of domestic terrorism and all this shit. But the FBI came up with the fucking idea. Hello, I mean, and you're gonna see or you're gonna hear. I mean, when I start talking about J6, the correlations between the Whitmer deal and J6 is they said they're very good at and we had to kind of figure this out as conservatives. The FBI, or excuse me, the liberals are very good at formulating criminal plans and blaming us, meaning conservatives. They know exactly, kind of how to get it together. And when they have the FBI, DOJ, whoever involved, it's pretty fucking easy for them, So we had to get up on that plan, and I think in J6 even some of the FBI agents or their informants were called out then too. And I don't know that we've ever really identified the total number. We know I think in J6 there was over 32 agents or informants involved in that in J6, and they many of them committed actual crimes during J6 that they had to cover up. And you'll hear about that shit. But it's just so if which brings up another question: if the FBI and their informants, like in the Whitmer situation, if the FBI is dreaming up this shit of kidnapping a governor and their informant, why shouldn't they be charged? They're if it can be proved that they came up with the idea and they took part in it, um, charge them, charge the informants. They're the I know that's a little crazy, but isn't that fair? If you come up with an idea, um, just to see if somebody else is going to bite on it, I mean, you started it, so charge them motherfuckers. I don't know. How do you keep these fucking people fair? Well, I think Trump is doing that with getting rid of the pieces of shit FBI agents that that number one politicize their positions in trying to arrest Trump, and also in the J6. I hope he fires every fucking one of them. Every single fucking one, and starts over, because sometimes you got to weed out the bad people and show everyone else that you're willing to do it. Okay. And then just start fucking over. They're doing nothing good for America. I guarantee that. If they're in there and they're using their position as essentially a spy inside that agency, working for the liberal Democratic Party, get fucking rid of them. I'd rather not have that person there than be there and do the damage that they do. Um, so yeah, so the FBI informants, their travel, their lodging, their food, even they had tactical gear. Okay, all paid for by the FBI. There was a guy that his name, they called him Big Dan. That was his secret code name, Big Dan. All right. So Big Dan was one of the ones that came up with the uh, with the plot to kidnap Whitmer, and I think he's the guy that made over $50,000 in this thing. Um, the FBI in evidence, it shows that the informants helped develop and escalate the plan to kidnap her. Okay. They actually had militia guys who were saying, "Hey, we don't think this is a good fucking idea, man. You know, I got a job at the, at the fucking coal mine or, wherever they're working. And, I got to bring home money for the family. I can't be getting arrested for some crazy idea. I mean, who the fuck knows? But that's what I'd be thinking is like, I'm a militia. I'm here to, to protect this country in the case shit hits the fan. I'm not here to, uh, kidnap liberals. Okay. Just crazy. And that's why so many were acquitted and there was hung juries and shit like that. Um, did so here's another thing. And it pisses me off because as law enforcement, you've got to stand on your whatever you've done. As long, I mean, not even as long, whatever you've done, you've got to own it and you've got to present that and represent why you did it or what you did and show that in evidence. Okay. You say on, this day I was involved in a conversation that was tape recorded with, so and so, and here's a recording, and yes, that's me, and blah 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 blah. Well, what did they do with many of the recordings? Okay, they fucking destroyed it. Okay, they destroyed it, delete it. They told the FBI told informants to delete text messages, and withhold in the FBI and their prosecution, whatever. They intentionally withheld evidence. So they destroyed evidence and they withheld evidence. Okay, those are two things that show that you're dirty motherfuckers. Okay, you're just dirty, and that's what pisses me off is when you can't bring a case against somebody, a citizen, an American citizen, as a law enforcement agency and not lie, not destroy evidence, and not do it the right fucking way, then you don't belong in that agency. You don't belong there. Okay. And that's what they did. Exactly what they did. Like I said, they ultimately were got two people convicted, and I don't remember how long their terms were, but these poor fucking guys. I mean, they were probably like the dumbest ones, that couldn't that okay, I'll do that. I mean, I don't want to represent militias as dumb or whatever, but if they were a little bit dumb, if they got caught up in this shit, if you couldn't see this shit coming, and think about it, then yeah. Anyways, so yeah, so the other thing was that they edited and removed parts of transcripts that showed how the FBI pressured the FBI and informants. And to me, they're interchangeable. Yeah, whether it's an actual agent who's undercover or an informant, they're doing the same work. All right, they're collecting evidence. They're taking part in this investigative process. So They edited, intentionally fucking edited out and hid significant portions of reports um, showing how the informants pressured these guys, these militia guys, into doing or taking part in this kidnapping attempt. And there was actually no attempt; they stopped it, so I shouldn't say attempt, but in the conspiracy, um, and how the militia members were very, very fucking reluctant to even be part of it. So what does that tell you? Okay, what does that tell you? Okay, deleting evidence, destroying evidence, redacting important portions of transcripts that showed them pressuring these people to do this crime, and redacting and just in removing portions of the evidence that would have shown how reluctant, how these people didn't want to take part in this conspiracy to kidnap Whitmer. Okay. Um, Internal communications, meaning emails and memos or whatever the fuck that means, but internal communications. So I take that to be both of those. Those are normally how things work: is emails, text, and potentially memos. Okay, were missing or redacted. Okay, um, so why would they do that? Okay, why? They're dirty. Okay, I could understand if if maybe I don't even know if I can understand that when you have a case and the whole thing from beginning to end, there's evidence destroyed, redacted, missing, that shows how negatively your agency treated this, how they were basically part of it and initiated it. How do you stand up and be proud at work? Okay. It's American people, man. This is the government that we expect to treat us fairly, and that's how they treat us. Okay, you don't like my fucking politics. Okay, you don't like it. Um, that doesn't mean you just get to put me in jail, create crimes, and say, hey, hey, you want to go kidnap a governor? Oh yeah, that sounds really great, guy. And oh boom, you're arrested. You said it's really great. I mean, come on, give me a fucking break, man. Um, and how far along? I mean, so a conspiracy is essentially one overt act that furthers the plan, essentially. So how long does that take? Um, and they'll explain that in court. I mean, in corrections, that's what, at least in corrections, where my training comes from. That's essentially what a conspiracy was. All right. So if it's the same in the criminal world and one overt act, I mean, that could be something as much as just gathering some type of buying some duct tape, or something. I mean, so really, it's insane to me. Um, so these two poor fucking guys end up getting prison sentences, and like I say, I don't know how long. They're probably pretty fucking lengthy. Hopefully they weren't. But how do you feel about the FBI knowing that's what they did? And when you hear about the right wing conspiracy of a militia, to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, and that's all yeah, I get it. You think militias are crazy, and you think blah blah blah, but look the fuck into it. That's what you have to do now, because news agencies aren't covering it. I guarantee that. You think CNN is going to really do a deep dive in to the FBI and how this was a goddamn dumpster fire for them. No, they're just gonna hit the highlights. All right, they're hitting the highlights. Is far right militia plans to kidnap a governor? That's the highlights. All right, but it's horrible, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that Trump came in and starts to hold these fuckers accountable. All right, fire every fucking one of them. And so one of my friends on, well, he used to be my friend on Facebook. When I said that over a different, it was a different issue, but I said fire, fire them, and I think it had to do with J6. But I said fire them all, and really what I was referring to, and I think I was actually pretty clear on this. If let's say there's, I want to say this is accurate too, but don't quote me on this. I think there was about 3,000 agents who had some type of role in the investigation of J6. All right. Now, it doesn't mean it was a huge role. It could be very small. I mean, boom, that's one. If he just looked up a license plate number, okay, who knows? But what I was saying is, if you're a supervisor and you have the duty of handing out assignments, and you're the one that decides that we're going after these J6 people, knowing exactly what some of them did, which was trespassing, and knowing that these people are going to be uprooted from their families. They're going to be placed in prison for many years, and they're going to be, and this is nothing but a big political shit show. And you make the decision to be part of that, then yes, you should be fired. And there are definitely some agents who took part in that, and I don't care if they were supervisors or not, they used their position to further their political agendas, and yes, they should be fucking fired. Okay, point blank, fired. They shouldn't work in law enforcement anymore. Okay, period. All right, you can't use, when you take the oath. Okay, when you take the oath and to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, and you know that you're using your position as a political stunt, essentially, then you're lost. I got no use for you anymore. Okay, in my government, I got no use for you. All right. So I don't know. I get cranked up on this shit because it really pisses me off. This destroys lives. And thank God that Trump won, and that Trump released every goddamn one of them. Every fucking one. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that these people's lives were not impacted any more than they were. Okay. Um, man, it still pisses me off. Man, I get pissed off about this shit. My wife knows it, man. It just because I love this country, and when I see and hear how these people use their positions, even when I was I was an associate warden in corrections, and they're I'm gonna kind of different, but this but kind of the same is you can deal with people, for example, personality type issues. I may like you or not like you, because I think you're kind of an asshole, or I think I think you X, Y, and Z. Whatever the case, we all like and dislike people for various reasons. But I never, ever looked at a person. I looked at them, and when I heard, like, if it was my job to investigate what they may have done, there were absolutely times where I looked at it and without any evidence whatsoever, I thought, oh, yeah, he probably fucking did that. Absolutely. Okay. Because that is the, um, that is the reputation that that individual had earned himself. Okay. And I'm thinking of one situation, but I'm going to tell you what, in the situation I'm thinking of, there was more than I want to say 5 or 6 people that were saying that this individual did it. Okay. Put that aside. And I didn't necessarily consider that. I just considered to start, considered whether he did it or not. And I thought, yep, that's pretty much just like something he would do. But I went through the investigation. All right. And I didn't gear my findings to find him guilty. Didn't do that at all. Okay. I geared my findings to the truth. And guess what? He was fucking innocent as fuck. Every single person lied. Okay. And they lied. Why? Because a supervisor who was on site told them to fucking lie. Okay. And it could have worked. It could have worked. Okay. It could have fucking worked. And that was because the supervisor had fucked up by not dealing with an issue that had happened. But what a shit show. But that's what I'm saying is, you know, whether it's politics and or whatever, or just my opinion of the individual, you cannot do your job and gear your job to make a determination on findings based on what you want to find. It has to be about the truth. Okay, it's got to be about the truth. um anyways, that's what I got for you today, man. I didn't go into a tremendous amount of details on this one, this Whitmer. It was such a shit show from the start to the beginning. You've got the narrative, and I think it's important for people to realize what these agencies are have done in the past, and how important it is that Trump gets in there, and we've got a guy like Cash Patel, PM Bondi, and these people who are stepping in and making sure that these agencies are actually working for America again. Okay, working for America, not against America, not against Republicans. Okay, not against any particular political party. You haven't seen anybody arrested yet, from based on a political agenda. There was a Democrat. I want to say out of New York. I don't remember. He was arrested for taking bribes, I think it was, or something. But he's not. I'd never heard of him before, and I don't think you could call that political agenda. I mean, they had the proof, and whatever, kind of a small time deal. But that's the only one I've even heard of that's been arrested. They've talked about it. I think the one that needs to be arrested is Adam Schiff. That guy is probably the biggest liar in American political history. He is the shit that guy did. He needs to go to jail, and that's why he got a fucking pardon from President Shit's pants. So, but anyways, that's what I got for you today, man. I'm gonna ask you guys to do me a favor and go to my Facebook, my Red, White, and Ruthless Facebook page. You guys, right now, you access in different ways, whether it be YouTube or my own Facebook page. However, I'm on X. I don't keep X up enough. I should. I need to work on that. Instagram too. But go to it and subscribe or like it. Follow my Facebook page for Red, White, and Ruthless. Do that for me. Like it. Like the like the comments and stuff, because I really want to grow this, this web, or excuse me, this podcast up. I've got some cool things coming up, I think, and I'm gonna keep fucking doing it no matter what. But if you enjoy it, please do that. I've got some things coming up that I'll talk about real quick. I've got a guy lined up who I'm going to interview, and he's been a friend of mine for many years. Work with them, gosh, probably 15 years, or longer than 15 years ago, I think. He was actually ahead of me. I think he was a captain when I was lieutenant, and then I promoted to captain, and we ended up both promoting to associate warden. But I'm going to interview him, and he's got, everybody's got kind of their beefs with, CDCR on some shit. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, he's got a son in the department that started. I really want to talk about that. Just about his career in both male and female, how that, prisons, how that was different. So we're going to get into it, man. I'm going to enjoy it. I want to take this podcast to like a next level where I'm engaging in people, or with people, and talking about their careers, and I'm going to do something, matter of fact, I'll call him out right now, Frank. I want to talk to you because I know you're hardcore conservative, and I want to talk to you about some of the things that you've dealt with and your opinions on the political climate of America. So I want to do kind of both things, prison stuff and, political stuff. I'm going to do my best to kind of remain neutral as I can and let the interviewer kind of lead the way. I don't know how good I'll be at that, to be honest, but I'm going to give it a try. But yeah, that's what I've got for you today, guys. Again, like, share, follow, all that bullshit. Hope you enjoyed the Whitmer information and understand why it's important that we keep these people in check. Okay, we're going to play our way out of this podcast, and thank you for listening. All right, people, take care.